Now, in every sport at every level, we see athletes suffer devastating injuries way too often. Perhaps the most devastating of them all is a ruptured Achilles tendon. It's one thing to come back from one torn Achilles, but how about a second one? Well, Pepperdine senior Amadi Udenyi did just that. Here's an incredible comeback story about an amazing young man.
Like any young kid enthralled with sports, Amadi Udenyi had his favorite athlete.
I said, Amadi, is Michael Jordan your favorite player? And he was like, no, Michael Jordan not my favorite player. And I said, who, Scottie Pippen? And he go, no, Scottie Pippen not my favorite player. And then he shoots the ball into the court, and it's like a 6-foot court, and he's 2. And he goes, I'm my favorite player.
Surprisingly positive thinking from a young boy at age 2. Don't you think?
Amadi is the most positive person I ever met in my life. Like, not just because I'm his mom.
That positive attitude would be tested early and often for Amadi at Pepperdine, starting with a meniscus tear his freshman year, missing roughly 10 games, followed by a season-ending ruptured Achilles tendon, roughly 20 games into his sophomore season.
So I was defending, and then he went up for a shot, and when I jumped up, I just felt like a kick or pop. When I was on the ground, I mean, I didn't feel pain while I was on the ground, so I turned around, and the person that was behind me was Jeremy Major. And I asked him, I was like, did you just kick me in my leg? And he was like, what do you mean? Their trainer heard me say that, and then she ran on the court and, you know, like waved our people over, because I guess that sign is a telling that you might have ruptured Achilles.
There's so many different movements that you make in a basketball game, and it was a late game. He just jumped up to contest a shot, and you didn't notice it. I didn't notice it during the game.
So I was more so just in shock that I wasn't going to be able to finish the season. So physically, it wasn't like the actual injury wasn't painful, but just mentally, like, kind of did take a toll on me, just knowing I wouldn't be able to finish the season.
An Achilles tendon rupture in his left extremity, far less common in college basketball than, say, an ACL tear. Once surgery completed, a grueling 8-month rehabilitation process ensued for Udenyi to regain his muscle memory and balance.
You're on crutches for like a month and a half, so you can't really do anything. And then once you start being able to do rehab, it's like little things. Like, I remember we were in Vegas for conference championships. I was with our conditioning and strength coach, and I'm doing the rehab, and it's like little marbles and like little foam pieces that I have to try to pick up with my toes, and I can't get my toes to grab the marbles and put them in the cup. And I think that was the hardest part, just not being able to control my foot.
Because of how he is and the way how positive he is and how strong he is, I knew he was going to come back and just be even stronger.
And stronger he was, healthy for the entirety of his junior year. But it would only last so long. Udenyi and the Waves were off to a hot start 6 games into his senior year when the unthinkable happened again.
And this time, I knew. Because I've had the feeling before. I remember a guy cutting down the lane. I went to go, you know, like tag him. And when I took a step, it popped. And I just remember looking at Coach Wilson, and he saw me with my big eyes, and I was like, I'm done.
I knew right away what it was, and he just walked towards the bench, and he kind of fell on the floor, and just the emotions came out, and he's pounding the floor.
Trainer came over, and before he even tried to like do any tests, I told him, like, I knew it was a torn Achilles.
But it was tough. I was fighting back tears because I knew what he had gone through before, and then to have to go through it again, it was tough.
When it happened, he knew he had to red shirt that day. They had this chemistry, that team, and they needed him. He was their leader, and without him, it just kind of went downhill.
Heading into the game versus Portland State, Pepperdine was 5-2, but with the loss of Amadi, the Waves only won 4 more games the rest of the year, finishing with a 9-22 record.
It's a rare, very rare occurrence. I've never seen one in my 17 years as a strength conditioning coach 2 Achilles go, so it was very rare.
Do you think there was ever a point, whether it be through the first rehab, the second one, any of the injuries in between, that you thought that you wouldn't be able to come back and play?
No. Until I can't play, then yeah. I knew if I know there's a chance of me being able to like come back and they can repair, unless they cut my leg off, then yeah, I'll probably say, okay, I won't be able to play.
He's got a will that won't allow you to feel sorry for him, because he's got that mindset of, hey, I'm going to be back. So you never really got down. And once you got over the initial shock of it, it was like, hey, I'm going to be back.
He's always had a positive attitude, and I know a lot of people say that about people, but he really had to do some tough stuff. And he had to do the tough stuff when people weren't around, when people were home for the summer, so forth. But he was definitely a grinder, so it definitely felt for him.
It just makes him stronger because of his positivity. It makes him stronger. He feels like everything happens for a reason, and when he was able to sit and watch the game last year, it just made him better coach.
I think it helped him now, this year, of knowing when to call what plays for whom and in certain situations. So I think overall it's just made him better. It's made him more conscious and made him more vocal.
5 years of school, 4 seasons of basketball riddled with injuries, including 2 ruptured Achilles tendons, and countless hours of rehab. But if you think Amadi Udenyi views 1 second of his time as a Wave in a negative light, well, you clearly don't know Amadi.
If you would take Amadi freshman year to his 5th year, it would be day and night. Like just me talking to the players and putting people in certain spots, just sharing my knowledge, me learning more throughout the injuries, and just growing up here at Pepperdine has allowed me to become a better man and just more of a leader on the court.
For WCC This Week, I'm Sammy O'Brien.